pad thanks to Indeed.com. When posting your job, Indeed lets you add screener questions that give you a less time-consuming route to your short list of qualified candidates. So go ahead, dust off that extra long lunch hat. Hiring's better when you've got your short list. Save time on hiring when you post a job on Indeed. Get started today at Indeed.com/hire.
This is John Greenhut, and if your teeth are stained from coffee, tea, or smoking, Power Swabs is the answer. In 5 minutes, you'll see 2 shades whiter teeth, and in 7 days, 6 shades. Even better, there's no messy strips or trays that you'll have to leave in your mouth for an hour. Just swab your teeth for 5 minutes, and you're done. To try Power Swabs, call 1-800-679-0969. Your bright white smile will have your friends talking about how great you look. Try it risk-free. 1-800-679-0969. That's 1-800-679-0969.
FM and now 102.3 FM.
Hey guys, this is Andrew Caravella. Just wanted to let you know that KCAA has a new listener line for all of you that have a phone. Now you can listen to KCAA in the grocery store, in the doctor's office, or when you want to pretend you're on the phone with someone just so that creeper will leave you alone. Call 720-835-3099 today and listen to your favorite KCAA radio shows. That number again, 720-835-3099. KCAA Radio, the station that leaves no caller or listener behind.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh is still denying claims of sexual misconduct. He maintains that he will not be intimidated into withdrawing. In a letter to the Senate Judiciary Committee, Kavanaugh said claims about his background have become a frenzy filled with smears. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell accused Democrats of reaching a new low in the fight over Kavanaugh.
This is what the so-called resistance has become. A smear campaign, pure and simple.
Opening the Senate today, McConnell said Dems and their allies are trying to destroy Kavanaugh with decades-old allegations. Rod Rosenstein will meet with President Trump on Thursday amid conflicting reports as to whether the Deputy Attorney General will resign or be fired. Trump is at the annual UN meetings in New York and cannot meet face-to-face with Rosenstein, but today White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders said the two men have talked extensively by phone. Comedian Bill Cosby will learn his fate tomorrow.
Cosby will find out how much time, if any, he'll have to serve for drugging and sexually assaulting former Temple University athletic staffer Andrea Constand at his home in 2004. DA Kevin Steele is asking Cosby be sentenced to 5 to 10 years in state prison because he believes Cosby has not shown remorse. Constand read her victim impact statement in the Philadelphia area court on Monday, saying, "The jury heard me, Mr. Cosby heard me, and now all I am asking is for justice as the court sees fit." Tom Roberts, NBC News Radio.
Language that requires airlines to make sure baggage fees are reasonable and proportional are being dropped from a bipartisan aviation bill. The bill to reauthorize the FAA was unveiled Saturday, and while it got rid of the reasonable fee requirement, it requires the FAA to mandate minimum passenger seat sizes, including legroom. The bill also would bar airlines from forcibly removing passengers after they've made it through the boarding gate. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio.
Monday nights from 6 to 7.
It's Reality Check Live with Carrie Harrison.
And after all the Trump sex scandals, oligarchs, and rhetoric, join me this Friday with Dan Pfeiffer, co-host of the #1 political podcast, Pod Save America. You'll get Orwell tips from Barack Obama's 10-year-long former White House Director of Communications and senior advisor to the president. And I'll give away a copy of his smokin' new book.
Reality Check Live.
Monday nights from 6 to 7.
KCAA Loma Linda.
Miss a show, miss a lot.
For more local radio every day, tune into KCAA Loma Linda.
The views of the following show are not necessarily the views of broadcast management or its owner, Fred Lundgren. But then again, the views of broadcast management are, well, different. And now it's time for On the Mark Live with host Mark Westwood. Finally, a show about KCAA. Hot topics, a little locomotion, current events, news, laugh, reviews, and a little irreverence. And you. And now, ladies and gentlemen, 3, 2, 1, Mark.
And good afternoon to you. I'm Mark Westwood on KCAA 1050 AM, 106.5 and 102.3. And it is Monday, 3 o'clock. It must be on the mark. And this afternoon, I'm going to introduce to you in just a few minutes a very esteemed person here in the community of Ontario and in Rancho and also all over the Inland Empire. Many people know him as Sam Crow. And I'm going to tell you about Sam Crow in just a minute or two. I want to say hello to everybody out here. And as you were listening today, it's been an eventful day, especially if you're following the Supreme Court saga with Kavanaugh and a woman who came forward now. A second woman coming forward with alleged accusation, we have to say that at this moment, that he was improper with her as well. And what we found here, folks, and speaking for myself now, and in my opinion, is we have a man who has a history of repeated chronic being involved with misogynistic organizations like the DKE fraternity at Yale, a group that they had a subgroup of this that I can't say on the air. And Sam, a lot of that is, it's very frustrating. Like when the president says something and I can't repeat it on the air here because it's not suitable for broadcast. And when you stop and think about that, I can't repeat verbatim what the president of the United States has said sometimes on the air because it's considered by the FCC, a federal regulated organization, to be obscene. And we can't say it. So, that's pretty incredible. So now we have Judge Kavanaugh who, may or may not be guilty of these things, but what he is seeking the highest seat in the land on the justice of the Supreme Court. And, he shouldn't be afraid to go through the system. Trust in the justice system. Trust in justice. Let the hearings go on. Participate in them. Have your say, let her have your say, and then let the senators decide. I'd like to remind a lot of people out there that this is not a trial. These are Senate hearings. In other words, there's not going to be a conviction. There's not an indictment. The worst that can happen is he wouldn't be confirmed at this point. And I hear the attorney over there in the corner. He's being silent, but he's running for office, and I understand that. But Judge Kavanaugh just needs to sit back and relax. Let them prove this, because after all, it's on their burden to prove it one way or the other. Now, I will say this, 93% to 99%, it is a well-known research study that say that when women accuse a man of sexual impropriety or rape, in this case maybe possibly attempted rape, 93 to 99%, they're accurate, they're truthful, they're not lying. And when you have a college professor, for instance, from the university up in Oregon, making this accusation, she's a well-settled lady, she's, established, she doesn't need this in her life, but there was a disturbance. She saw that this man was going to be put on to the highest bench in the land and thought, well, maybe possibly I need to speak up, and it's time to get the torment and the trauma out of my life after all these years. That might be one argument. Well, maybe she's seeking fame and notoriety and all the stuff that goes along with that. But that's certainly a difficult way to get it. And to me, I have a hard time in my mind justifying why I or anybody else would ever make that kind of accusation and bring that kind of heat on themselves, that kind of attention on themselves, because it does bring it onto themselves too. So I kind of have a hard time believing that it doesn't have any merit. But what I do want to say to everybody listening right now out there in Radio Land is that we need to proceed with this for one reason and one reason only, that life, liberty, justice, and the pursuit of happiness are inalienable rights, not just for some, but for all. And the fact of the matter is that if we just said skip it, it does two things. Number one, it makes it seem like the justice who may be confirmed and step onto the bench would always have that hanging over him, number one. And number two, if we just said skip it, what are we saying if there's actually truth to it, if this actually is true, or if this other woman has now come forward, it's true, and him participating in these kind of male-dominating, women, misogynistic, treating women as objects kind of groups. If that's the case, then what are we as a society, and who are we talking about? Because that sort of thing doesn't have a time clock on it. It doesn't. Yeah, it might have been minimalized by some of you, and you might say it was a long time ago. But the fact of the matter is, for every woman coming in the future or now or ever since, we have to make sure that we step forward with this process in the proper way. And I don't think there's going to be a lot of people that can disagree with that. And so we sit back, we wait, we see what happens. But, the American people have brains. They're very smart. And if you happen to be somebody listening that has any influence on this, either worldwide on the World Wide Web right now, on KCAAradio.com or to our worldwide stream, or if you're somebody who's influential in any level of politics, do understand this. People are intelligent. Don't discount them. And more people are getting impatient with this, and the election is only about 47, 46 days away. And with that, I will wrap this portion of this up. I could not, with a political show, not talk about that to begin with, but I'll wrap this portion up, and we'll segue now to what we're doing, and we're highlighting different local candidates. I could get Gavin Newsom on here in a phone interview. We've done that. I could get congressmen, but I want to hit the local candidates and make sure that they get their opportunity to speak. So that's what we're doing here today with Sam Crow. Last week we actually had Sean Flynn, who's running for the 31st Congressional District. He was a Republican. He is a Republican. And then Denny Antoinette Manzigo, who is running in the 42nd Assembly District as a Democrat. So we're being fair. We're trying to be leveled. And right now we're going to introduce to you a man who I very much admire. His name is Sam Crow, city attorney for the city of Ontario. First of all, he lives and works in the city his entire adult life of Ontario. Isn't that correct, Sam?
That's correct, Mark.
You are a local person. You are not somebody coming in. You're not a carpetbagger. You're not there for the ride or to promote yourself or fame or notoriety or, to gain a bigger office. You are there to serve.
That's correct.
And the reason I say that is not just opinion. I can read through his resume. And, city attorney for 20 years, 8 years as a city council person. He would have run again, but you told me before the show you put your own term limits on. You believe in term limits?
Yes, I believe in 2 terms. I served 2 terms on the Ontario City Council, stepped down, and helped elect a replacement, Gustavo Ramos, who was the first Hispanic to be elected in Ontario.
And the first Hispanic. That's hard to imagine with Ontario, with the demographics the way it is. That's the first Hispanic.
Yes, it was really an unusual campaign, but we worked hard.
Good. Been in the Planning Commission for a couple of years. And you also, you're an attorney with, it used to be Covington and Crow, and then now it's just Sam Crow and Associates, right?
That's right.
And city attorney, contract city attorney for the city of Hesperia, Rancho Cucamonga, a school board member with the Ontario
Montclair School District.
Montclair School District for many, many years. And that's how I kind of knew you, because I know a lot of teachers, and they knew you and supporting you. So supported by teachers. One big thing, party history that you're a part of. Back in the day when Ontario was a couple of biplane airports?
Well, it was a small airport. We had actually 2 cities we served. Back in the 60s, we served San Francisco and Las Vegas, and we could not get an airline to go into any other city. I negotiated with every airline in existence, repeatedly asking them to fly out of Ontario. They refused to do so.
Kind of sounds like San Bernardino's little airport they have going on right now.
Yeah, there's a different problems there because of air patterns, but it's a similar problem.
Similar problem. Well, you wrote the transfer back when the day in the 60s, I believe it was.
1967, I negotiated with the city of Los Angeles to have them come in and operate the airport for the specific purpose of increasing the air passenger service. And they were marvelous. They required the airlines to fly out of Ontario. In Ontario, we had no power, but Los Angeles had a great deal of power. As a result of that, our passenger service went up to almost 7 million passengers in the up through about 2007.
Right.
The economy was pretty bad at that point, so it went down.
It went down a little bit, but overall, that was a successful thing that happened for the city of Ontario, and now the city has the airport back.
They've taken the airport back, although when it came back, it didn't go to the city of Ontario. It went to a special corporation that certain people in the city are on the board of, and I think it was a mistake. I think the city of Ontario should have taken the airport back, not this other corporation, but that's the way it was.
Yeah, and that's the way they did it. I think they thought they were protecting or insulating the city from something, but at the same time, I think it inured a few people, including maybe the current mayor or
the current mayor. No, the current mayor is not on the school on the airport commission.
Oh, okay.
Because he's not in favor, I think, with some of the other council people. But the city council, 2 of the city council members are on that board, and the distinctive problem that I think exists with the board, there's no one on that board that has any knowledge about airports, aircraft, airplane travel. For years when I was on the council, I served on the airport board. I understand what the problems are in running an airport, but I think they're more interested in being on the board and receiving whatever income comes from that position than they are really running the airport.
Yeah, the mayor of the city of Ontario makes what?
$82,000 a year is his net salary.
Yeah.
When I was on the city council, I think my salary was around $300 a month.
Yeah.
Times have changed.
You wouldn't get rich doing that, that's
Nope.
for sure.
Well, it should be a public service.
Yeah,
Exactly. It is a part-time job.
Yeah, a part-time job maybe gets your expenses covered. You shouldn't be getting rich off of it.
No.
You certainly shouldn't be seeking it. You shouldn't be seeking this office to get a career or a job. And I think if you paid big wages like that, or do pay big wages like that, that's what you invite as people that are coming in. They're not really there to serve. They're there to serve themselves.
That's correct.
And I've always said there's 2 kinds of politicians, Sam. Those who run to serve other people and those who run to serve themselves. And obviously, Sam, you're one of those people that wants to run to serve other people's. You're called Ontario your home for lifetime. City council, city attorney, planning commissioner, airport commissioner. You've got such a graduate of UCLA, USC, law school, but dedicated career to the city and the citizens. You've been working at this for a whole lifetime. Raised your family there?
Yes. Oh, well, my wife and I met when I was in junior high school. She was at Vina Danks Junior High School in Ontario. So
Annette, a wonderful woman, by the way. A wonderful woman. You negotiated the Ontario Mills Agreement, bringing millions of dollars into tax revenue.
And up to that point, most cities were having some difficulty. You relied on development for money, but the Mills project made Ontario fluent. It brought in regular money, and from the very day we signed that agreement, the city of Ontario has done well financially.
Yeah, and busy place. It's brought revenue through the Ontario Mills, but all around it too. I mean, you drive to Ontario Mills, it's not just the mall; it's the streets all the way around it are
Correct.
Busy with booming businesses that do really well, and certainly it has brought Ontario into the city that it is now. Board of directors for 4 years as chair, by the way, as Casa Colina Hospital.
Yes.
And Casa Colina Hospital serves not just the average public person. Casa Colina Hospital serves people who attended assisted living. Is that what it is?
Well, it's not assisted living. It's a rehab hospital, and it's known throughout the world. I mean, when you read about most of our military people in Iraq who came back to the United States with very serious brain injuries, most of them ultimately came to Casa Colina. It's a specialty there, but it's one of the world's most prominent rehab hospitals, really doing very well, have a large number of great doctors, great facilities, and it's more like a hotel sometimes than it is a hospital.
Yeah, but it does serve well. And now, among other things, I'm going to just put this in the middle because I don't think I've said it yet. You're running for mayor.
I am, yes.
Of Ontario.
Yeah, I wondered why we were here.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Sam, you've done all this stuff. You continue to do this stuff. You continue to serve, and now in your more developed years, I'll just put it that way.
Yes.
You've decided you want to be mayor of Ontario.
That's correct.
And there's a lot of reasons. We're going to talk about that in a minute. I still haven't gone down through the whole list here. Board of Directors, the Ontario Airport Travelers Aid Society. What does that do?
That is really the face of the airport. And most people don't realize it because the airport has had difficult times since the economy about 2008 developed some problems. The airport developed problems. But we are the face at the airport. Anybody who has a problem. And we still have people arriving at the airport wanting to know how to get to Montreal because they think they're in Ontario, Canada. And we have a group of about 200 volunteers. We work the airport. Anytime there's a problem at the airport, we solve it. We also recognize.
So when people say they want to get to Montreal from Ontario, California, you just say go to Colton and turn left and go a long time.
No, but how we handle it, but we do handle that. And it's surprising the number of people that think they're arriving in Canada.
Really?
Yes.
That's it's amusing at the same time, maybe tragic.
Yeah.
If you wanted to be in Canada and you were a long way away.
Think of the surprise if you were one of those persons.
Well, you're coming from London, Australia, or something like that, and the booking agent says, "Oh, you want to go to Ontario?" and they send you to Ontario, California.
Yes.
Oh my, that could be a problem. Oh my. Also, co-founder and board member of the Inland Empire Small Business Financial Development Corp.
Yes, we started that several years ago, and it depended on state financing, and that's been a problem in the last few years. But for the first 3 or 4 years of that operation, it was really great. We provided financing for all new businesses that were operating in the Inland Empire. So it had a great purpose, but its funding has been a problem lately.
And there's a lot more to talk to people and tell them about you, but volunteer with the Veterans Partnering with Communities organization.
Yes, and most of our veterans have fairly serious problems. Either they have none, or when they have them, they're serious. So,
are you a veteran yourself?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
But
you served your country well here at home. So.
Well, at the time, I was drafted twice, and both times my wife was pregnant, and I was ineligible to serve.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and you have lots of things going on all over the area, and you've served certainly a very distinguished career in community service, and now you want to be mayor of Ontario, and that takes a lot of perspective, a lot of vision to do that, and that's a big picture person that wants to be the mayor of a big city like Ontario. Ontario has about how many thousands of people now?
Well, it's about 170, 180, but we're smaller than Rancho. And we're smaller than Fontana in terms of population.
Yeah, that kind of blows your mind when you say that. It used to be the other way around. Fontana was the little town.
Yes, well, it was a steel town.
Yeah.
My father worked at Kaiser Steel in Fontana.
And they built all those homes up there around the 15 freeway up there.
Yeah.
And the north end, and just quadrupled the size of Fontana. And Fontana's around about now 267,000.
Yeah, I think it's 204. But it's larger than Ontario, but their mayor has a fraction of the payment that the mayor has in Ontario.
And of course, they're creeping up on San Bernardino. San Bernardino is one of the biggest cities still in the Inland Empire. Victorville is encroaching on it. Rancho's encroaching on it. Fontana's encroaching on it. It may not be that way for very long, but it is certainly right now.
Well, there are definite problems with growth, because being the largest city isn't necessarily a good thing, because if you don't have the services if your growth is greater than your growth in services, you've got problems. And that's one of the problems in Ontario.
So as you're listening to this, you understand, folks, that not only does he have a distinguished career, he has a good grasp and understanding of what's going on in the city of Ontario, because he knows it like the back of his hand. You can probably tell everybody just about what street and where they live and their precinct number practically, probably after all these campaigns, I would imagine.
Well, I'm not sure I could do that, but I have watched the city grow and been part of that growth for a long time.
So tell me, you've watched the city grow, you've seen part of the growth, you've seen the positives and the negatives about Ontario. I'm sure that there's some agenda items you have in mind.
Well, I do. I think that the cost of running for office in Ontario is prohibitive. Most people won't run because it takes so much money to run. If you have to reach 66,000 voters, that's a lot of money. If you're mailing it, if you're trying to walk it, there's a lot of feet that got to tromp that pavement.
You got to throw that big rock in the pond and have all those ripples.
So I believe that district elections are a necessity in Ontario. I was able to get that in the school district. The school district now their elections are by district. If you had district elections, you only have about 1/5 the amount of people you've got to contact. So you're able to walk a precinct, all precincts. If you were districts, you're able to send mailers to at least everybody once. You can't do that in Ontario today. My problem is I certainly don't have enough money to run the campaign that my opponent's going to have. The incumbent has a great deal of money mainly from developers. So if we can get district elections, it will help. we need to have the people vote on term limits. I don't think that I should decide that for people. I think term limits is a serious problem. I believe in them personally. That's
I think
why.
everybody knows from the product we have here in the United States on the federal level and local level, we need some election reform everywhere.
Yes.
It's just not fair and level anymore. And that's the problem. We've got congressmen that are continuously fundraising to battle against the big corporations that may, invest against them since Citizens United happened about 6 or 7 years ago. And people go, what is Citizens United? Well, it was a Supreme Court decision that basically said corporations are people too, and they can give unlimited amount of money to campaigns.
Exactly. Ontario has an unlimited control of donations. That's why we need to have contribution limits.
Right.
And if I'm elected, I'll see that we have contribution limits. So the County of San Bernardino does. Ontario doesn't. We also need an ethics commission because it's possible in Ontario for you to receive $18,000, as one person has, for a individual who's got a matter before the city council. You get the money and then you vote on that matter. That's wrong.
That is, it's like bribery is what it really amounts to. Just, it's done in a kind of a way that it doesn't look like you're just giving money directly to them. But it's the same thing, I wanted to get this out to the folks just on all levels, depending on what race you're running in. Like he says, there's no campaign contributions spending limit in Ontario. Like in the state of California, if you're running for state assembly and you're in one election, I believe it's $3,800 that you can receive from anyone that's a person. But of course, any kind of a corporate donation, you can receive, $400,000.
Correct.
And if you're receiving $400,000, which would be kind of a rare case, but sometimes happens, my gosh, you're probably going to pay attention to those people when it comes time to vote, and you're going to want to please them. And that's what's happening, with our our congressional races. Congress people, I know they're more progressive, and I know that they stand for the things I do, but they're having to raise $1 million or $2 million every other year rather, to get elected. And the problem with that is that now they've got to take contributions, donations, and that divides their attention. And soon it is going to be, are they representing the people, or are they representing the corporations, or the big corporate donors? And it's getting kind of hard to tell.
Yes. Well, I believe that if you're on a city council and you've received a fixed amount of money, and I'm not sure exactly what that is, my thought is maybe $1,000 in any given year, or $2,000. If you receive that amount of money, you should not be able to vote on any matter related to that particular donor for at least 2 years.
And if nothing more, if there's no law that says you have to do it, you should have the integrity, folks, if you're an elected person, to not do that.
Well, I don't think that's going to happen.
But it should, and we should hold them accountable. And the way you do hold them accountable, if we can't get this in place in a short term, is to say, we're not going to vote for you.
Yes.
And we're going to let you know. And we know that, there's a website that I like and I recommend to people called maplight.org. It's been around for years, but you go on to maplight.org, maplight.org, and you will see, you can look up a congressional district, you can look up a senatorial district, state assembly, wherever, and you can see the donations flowing just before the vote. And, they actually have almost like a price list in Washington, D.C. You want a congressional vote on a matter, and it's they're the author of the bill, it's going to cost you $8,000. If they're just on the bill as a writer, or they're just voting on the bill, maybe $2,000 to $4,000. And that's sad. That really is sad that is happening in Washington, D.C.
Yes, it is. I really believe if we were able to inform every voter in a city, certainly every voter in the city of Ontario, they would agree with everything that I've said. But getting notification to those voters, either actually getting the notification or getting notification in a way where they understand what you're saying. I mean, when we talk about district elections, a lot of people don't understand what that means, and it takes a lot of time to explain exactly how that benefits everyone. And unfortunately, in my case particularly, I won't have enough money to run campaigns and advise all of the voters what the issues are. And that's too bad.
And there certainly is an argument somewhere in there, maybe strong or weak, depending on what you think, about public financed elections or campaigns, where once you make it past the primary, you're given a certain amount of credit at radio stations, TV stations, with printing companies or something like that to get your message out, and then you do so. Or, you're given a stipend that you can spend or something like that. There's an argument there. I don't know. I'm not convinced about it myself.
Well, it's complicated.
It's complicated. But, if we can't get health care, my gosh, I don't know if we'll ever get that. Or dental, or, But, we have to do something pretty soon because, as I said, I really feel more and more like even our better representatives and United States senators and things like that, they get their attention kind of drawn away from the little guy. They're not paying attention so much to the little guy. Try to get an appointment up there in Sacramento or in Washington, D.C. with them. It's going to be hard. But, if you're the CEO of a big corporation with, 100 employees, you're going to get their attention, especially if you can write a big check. And that's a problem. So campaign finance reform, I like that, Sam. I like the fact that you're for that. Even on the local level, you're saying.
Yes.
No.
Well, I think it's more important on the local level.
Yeah. And a lot of politicians on the local level, they really don't, subscribe to that at all. It's like, oh, nobody's going to press me for that. The politicians and the state politicians and the federal politicians, they always get those term limits, and the governors and things like that. But a lot of people don't think about term limits for local candidates. And sometimes, like I know in the city of Yucaipa, for instance, we have career candidates. You could go to the city hall and take their picture off the wall where they're hanging as the city councilman or whatever, and literally you'd see 4 or 5 layers of wallpaper underneath it.
Sure.
And they don't replace that wallpaper every year. It's every 10 years,
Well, the mayor that I'm running against was appointed 19 years ago, and has been he was appointed to the council, then was elected mayor. But he's there for 19 years. The other councilmen have been there for with one exception, over 20 years.
Yeah, and so, we are going to come up on a break here, but let's underscore that really quick. Mayor Paul Leon, the city of Ontario, has been the mayor for 19 years, folks. That's more than FDR. That's more than anybody. I don't think Governor Brown, I don't think Willie Brown, the so-called disheveled Speaker of the State Assembly in California, was infamous for being in so long and having such a power grab. 19 years as mayor of the city of Ontario. Time for a change. It doesn't even sound right. It's just a fact. If you like Paul Leon, if you're Paul Leon, I've been here 19 years. What am I doing here? Have I gotten done what I've gotten done? If you have the agenda, then, you should. We're going to come back. We're going to talk some more with Sam Crow, a mayoral candidate and esteemed citizen of the city of Ontario, in just a few moments, but we're going to take a break right now. I'm Mark Westwood for On the Mark. I've been talking with Sam Crow, and we'll be back right after this on KCAA, 1050 AM, 106.5, 102.3 FM, on the World Wide Web at KCAAradio.com. You can find us on Hulu, Spreaker, shout out, shout in, shout about, wherever. We're all over the place. We're worldwide. KCAA.
You've been listening to On the Mark Live with Mark Westwood, a show about KCAA, the world, and you, with more to come in a moment.
KCAA Loma Linda, 1050 AM, K292 FQ Riverside, and K293 CF Moreno Valley.
Celine Dion steps down from Las Vegas residency. This is your entertainment wrap-up for NBC News Radio. I'm Andrew Caravella. So her heart will go on no longer. Celine Dion announced Monday that her current residency at Caesars Palace in Las Vegas will end June 8th, 2019. The 50-year-old entertainer premiered her current show on March 15, 2011. However, Celine Dion has been in Las Vegas since 2003. Her first residency, A New Day, played 717 shows from 2003 to 2007. Celine released an official statement saying, "I definitely have mixed emotions about this final run. Las Vegas has been my home, and performing at the Coliseum at Caesars Palace has been a big part of my life for the past 2 decades. I'm so grateful to all the fans who have come to see us throughout the years." The international diva's popular Las Vegas residency inspired other artists to follow suit, like Lady Gaga, Bruno Mars, Ricky Martin, Britney Spears, and even Gwen Stefani. Oh, and let's not forget Shania Twain. Thank you very much. Now, in other news, SiriusXM SiriusXM is buying out Pandora for $3.5 billion. SiriusXM has 36 million subscribers in North America, while Pandora has 70 million. You see, Pandora's ability to stay an independent company was very much in doubt, and it's because of that SiriusXM had already invested $480 million to buy 19% of Pandora's stock last year, and it was widely reported to be looking at a full purchase. Pandora still lost $221 million in the first half of the year, although that was down 43% from the first half of 2017. And that's going to be the entertainment wrap-up right here on NBC News Radio. For KCAA, I'm Andrew Caravella. Success Partner presents the all-new Yucaipa and Cala Mesa Morning Market, located on the corner of County Line Road and California Street in the city of Yucaipa. This all-new neighborhood farmers market is open from 8 a.m. to noon on most Saturdays and carries some of the freshest produce in the Inland Empire. The Yucaipa and Cala Mesa Morning Market now open on most Saturdays at 13669 California Street in Yucaipa. 13669 California Street in Yucaipa. More information at 909-222-9293. That number again is 909-222-9293, or email successpartner@live.com. The all-new Yucaipa and Cala Mesa Morning Market, now open on most Saturdays in Yucaipa. Presented by Success Partner.
Now it's time to batten down the hatches, because here...
Del Walmsley here. The first thing you're going to have to learn is that until you stop expecting our politicians or anyone else to change your life isn't going to change. The only person who can change your life is you, but you need to know how. Listen to my show, the Del Walmsley Radio Show, where the hype ends and the help begins. Right here on KCAA, now broadcasting on 1050 AM, 102.3 FM, and 106.5 FM, the stations that leave no listener behind.
And now it's time to batten down the hatches, because here comes more of Mark Westwood and On the Mark Live. 3, 2, 1, Mark.
And we're back. I'm Mark Westwood, sitting here with the esteemed Sam Crow of Ontario. Sam Crow is just an all-about man in the city of Ontario. From a 10-year Ontario Montclair School Board trustee, 2 terms Ontario City Council member, former airport and planning commissioner. Sam Crow has worked to serve the community and work in the local community, and it's just a pleasure and honor to talk to you. And welcome back, Sam.
Good to be here.
Thank you. The election's coming up, and that's why we have Sam. He's running for mayor, which, if you're living in the city of Ontario, you've got a really good choice here. He's just served his whole entire life. He is supported by Congressman Pete Aguilar, Congresswoman Grace Napolitano, Assemblymember Freddie Rodriguez, all out in that area, Congresswoman Judy Chu, State Senator Connie Leiva, and also Democratic clubs of Rancho Cucamonga. He is the local guy that people like, and after 19 years, is where we can turn to, and we like that. It's a comfortable feeling to have Sam running for mayor of the city of Ontario, and we were talking about everything in the first part of the interview about politics and election reform and the current status of the city of Ontario. Let's talk a little bit before we get too much longer, because I don't want you to get in trouble about Annette and your family.
Well,
wonderful lady, Annette is.
Yes, yeah. Well, as I said before, my wife and I met when I was at Upper and Junior High School, and she was at Fina Danks, and it was a musical program, and we sort of hit it off. Then we both went to Chaffey High School. And we began dating in Chaffey High School. Then I went on to UCLA, and we knew when I graduated from UCLA we would get married. She would put me through law school. That was the plan.
Mm-hmm.
So we got married, and then I began law school at USC, and all of a sudden she was pregnant. I still can't figure out exactly how. She told me she thought she knew the way, but of course then I had to work myself and work my way through law school. But I graduated in 3 years from USC and passed the bar first time, and passed the bar on a Friday, and on Monday I opened a law office in Ontario.
Oh my gosh, you didn't waste any time at
No.
all. And now, if you're driving down the 10 freeway and you exit Mountain Avenue, you're looking for a good lawyer. Right next to the Edwards Cinemas over there.
That's
correct. You owned the building at one time. You've sold it since, but you've retained the law office there. It's Sam Covington and Associates.
It's Mr. Covington died. He was a great partner, but he passed away. So now it's just Samuel Crowe and Associates.
Samuel Crowe and Associates. Yeah, that's right. And then I'm so used to calling it that
Yes.
it just came right out of my mouth.
Yeah, everybody says Covington and Crowe. Because one point we had 36 lawyers, so we were pretty big.
Let's see if I get this address right, because I had it yesterday. 1336? 6th Street.
No, it's 1131 West 6th Street.
Oh, 1131 West 6th Street.
You had the right numbers, just in the wrong sequence.
Yeah, that's typical. That's typical for me. Anyway, nice law office over there. He's got a great crew over there, and a family. Tell us more about your family. You said your wife got pregnant while you were in law school.
Well, yes, and I have 3 children. My oldest son, Dan, has been in Spanish television forever. I mean, he graduated from college and went right into Spanish television, still in it. My middle son is an executive in a middle school in Van Nuys.
Mm-hmm.
And my daughter...
Wasn't your oldest son Dan in radio a little bit too?
Yes, well, he still has runs 2 stations up in Santa Maria.
Oh, bless his heart.
Yeah, but he lives in Los Angeles. He drives up there every week.
Trust me, as the guy that runs these radio stations, I know that's a hard deal just to do that, and then to be in Spanish television as well. Does he do mostly sales or?
No, he runs the stations.
Runs them stations. Yeah. Well, good for him. We'll have to meet him one of these days there. But certainly, it's a pleasure to have you in this radio station. And then when you go home tonight, I'm going to send you a link in your radio, and then you can send this radio program to your son.
Okay.
And then, how can I say this? Buenos dias, Dan. Not buenos tardes, yet. Buenos dias. Good day, Dan. We'll do that for him on there. And of course, you're looking right at the camera over here. And, we are an NBC affiliate, CNBC as well. And we've been around for a number of years. And we kind of enjoy doing what we're doing. And it's particularly nice to have a local candidate who really cares about what's going on here. And let's talk about your plan for the city of Ontario.
Well, I've already mentioned the fact that I think we have to have district elections.
Mhm.
We have to have an ethics commission created an ethics code. I think that we should have the voters determine whether they want term limits. But I think basically the real problem in the city of Ontario is that most citizens really don't know what's going on because there's no effort to explain it. I think there's serious problems at the airport, but nobody explains them. So you have people thinking, well, we took the airport back, everything is fine. That's not exactly the situation. I think we need to develop a program where there's continual publication of what the city's doing, the problems as well as the benefits, and that's missing now.
Mm-hmm. And, it is a city of vast resources when you think about it. It's got the airport. It's got a couple of huge malls.
Yes.
Really, it has Ontario Mills.
Yes.
Victoria Gardens is kind of in Rancho Cucamonga across the freeway.
It's
but
in
next door.
Rancho.
It's in Rancho, but then you have the convention center.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the Ontario Quakes.
Mm-hmm. Well,
The Rancho Cucamonga Quakes.
yeah.
I kind of that whole area, it's all that
Well,
west area.
I grew up here.
Yeah.
And it was all difficult for me to decide whether I was from Upland, Ontario, or Rancho Cucamonga. Because as a kid, we all went up to Rancho Cucamonga and we would go hunting and fishing.
Etowanda.
Yeah.
Alta Loma.
Yeah.
All that area.
And
It
I'm one of
together.
I think probably the only candidates that smudged. You don't even remember smudging, probably.
I know what it is. It has to do with oranges.
Oh, yes. What you lit up the smudge pots. There
Right.
was a famous firm still there, Shuey Smudge Pots.
Shuey Smudge Pots.
And you would as a student, you got a lot of money for smudging. Plus, you got to stay out of school the next day.
Because
You'd start smudging about 8 o'clock, and you heat up these heaters that warms up the vineyard so that the oranges or lemons don't freeze.
Right.
But it was a dirty, dirty job, and you'd wake up in the morning filthy. But everybody in town was filthy because the smoke was terrible.
Back in the day. And Redlands here, where you're sitting right now, is a big orange place.
Oh, yeah.
As well. We were probably sitting in what was an orange grove at one point or another. And I'm almost positive of it, in fact. And, not so many orange groves around anymore. It's kind of sad.
Not too many, yeah.
But, Ontario has turned into a place of vast resources and commerce, and about 76,000?
170, 180.
Yeah, 180. But, there's all kinds of things going out there. You have your symphony orchestra, your recreation center, your airport, and you've had an integral part of all of that.
Yeah, we do have a symphony orchestra, but back in what I call the old days, I started an opera company.
Oh, really?
And I started a symphony. We brought in fairly prominent conductors for both of them. They both went by the wayside. There really wasn't much of a market for opera and symphony back in the 60s and the 70s.
They were too busy smudging.
They were.
But, it was something, it was an enjoyable project, I imagine, nonetheless. So much to do yet, and a life well lived. Sam, do you have any grandkids now?
Yes, I have 3.
3 grandkids.
Yeah, one works in Washington, D.C., one works in Los Angeles, and then I've got one in high school.
I was looking at a picture here, and I saw this tall guy standing next to you. I says, "That's your son. That's actually your grandson."
That's my grandson.
And then there's Annette, and then is that his wife that's standing next to him? The girl standing next to him right here?
No, that's my granddaughter.
Granddaughter. And then there's somebody clear in the back of the photo there, kind of peeking over the top there. Who was that? And, of course, our listeners, I'm looking at some family pictures of him. And
that's my son's wife.
Son's wife,
Renee.
okay. Renee.
And she works in Spanish television.
Right, and she also works in Spanish television. Mm-hmm. So I imagine they speak fluent.
They do.
Yeah. How did that happen coming out? Well, I guess maybe coming out of Ontario.
I don't speak Spanish. I speak a terrible French. But as a parent, I insisted that all of my children be bilingual. I said, you can study what you want to study, but by the time you get out of college, you have to be fluent in another language, and it's paid off for them. It has
really.
It meant employment.
Yeah, I wish I spoke Spanish. One of the things I think we should do is SSL, which is, we have ESL, which is English as a second language. Spanish is a second language for we Americans who, we're kind of losing our job advantage a little bit if we're not bilingual in these days and age, especially if you're in customer service or in government.
Well, that second language, I give speeches on this. I can talk to students and say, it's worth $1 million to you to have that second language.
Really
in Ontario Montclair School District, we have one school that teaches primarily in Spanish. And it's interesting because by the time these kids get to the 6th grade, their average scores are higher because they have that dual language.
Right. And it's just how can it not help them expand the fabric and understand what they're doing and see more things from different perspectives? It tears down walls. Speaking of that, that's a concept. Tear down that wall. Remember that was Ronald Reagan that said that, or was attributed to saying that at least. Not build a wall, but tear down the wall.
Yeah.
And, that speaks loudly on many levels to a lot of people these days who are, I'm going to interject some federal politics. I can't help it here, but our deficit, folks, has gone up 21% since 2017. Wrap your ears around that. Wrap your mind around that. That's something you haven't heard a lot. You hear about tweets and things like that. But with the new tax plan that's gone into effect by this Congress, that doesn't include the $25 billion they want to use to build the wall. That doesn't include the promised infrastructure improvements that haven't been detailed or taken place yet. That doesn't improve a lot of things that they want to accomplish. The federal deficit has gone up 21%. Google it, folks. You don't have to pay attention to me. You don't have to believe me. That's what it's done. And just since 2017.
Yeah.
Sometime, someplace, somewhere, we're going to have to pay for that. We're going to raise tariffs. Well, then they raised them on us. And we're back to ground zero. Just everybody's going to be paying higher prices for everything in just a little bit of time. I personally don't think there was any advantage to costing our farmers $12 billion and then going, because we put tariffs on, China, and then going back to China to get a loan to do a subsidy program for what? $12 billion to give to the farmers. Well, the farmers are getting a paycheck going this way, but they're getting their tails handed to them the other direction.
It's very complicated, and I don't think any of us know the effect of what's going to be happening with these tariffs. It's a real problem.
Yeah, election's 42 days away. 42 days away. You have until 15 days before the election now to register to vote. You can go and get what they call on election day. You can get a provisional ballot, and provided that you qualify and your registration qualifies, then they'll count your vote if you do it on election day. But you don't want to do it that way. You want to register. It's really simple. Folks, you don't get jury duty from registering to vote. You get jury duty by doing one thing that almost everybody in California does, driving an automobile. That's how you do it. You get a driver's license, you get put in the jury pool. Some of us have been more fortunate than others to get that. However, it's not such a bad experience either to serve on a jury. It doesn't take too much time. Usually, most of the time, it is 3 or 4 days. You hear these stories about, they're off work for 3 months and they only get paid $15 a day.
Well, every time I've been called, they were canceled for some reason.
Yeah, I go and I talk to everybody in the jury pool. I'm friendly and talking to everybody. And I know they have cameras in that jury pool. I know they have it. So, I know that we're going to be, watched. And the lawyers probably are looking at me like, don't talk to that guy. He's too much of a leader. And so they put me in Group B, and then they send us to lunch. And sure enough, when we come back, Group B is dismissed. So there's a key right there. But do register to vote. We need you to vote. We need you to pay attention. And when people start voting, then politicians start listening.
Yeah.
Regardless of who was given the money.
And we have such a miserable voting turnout. It's terrible.
All over the place.
And throughout Europe, it's so much higher. It's crazy.
And we're getting the government we deserve. We're getting what we deserve. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people who do care, who do vote. And, I say this, my dad did serve in 3 wars. And he served in Korea, Vietnam, and World War II. And he wasn't uncommon. A lot of people's fathers and grandfathers did that. Or today they've served in, Kuwait or Afghanistan or in the Middle East somewhere. There's a lot of people who have given their lives, and it's so easy to register to vote. Take 5 minutes. Most people vote by mail. You don't even have to go to the poll anymore. Just mail it in, and you've done your duty. And yet you've done so much more because the weight of your vote, you say my one little vote doesn't count, but the weight of your one little vote with everybody else's votes makes sure that it's impossible for the Russians to rig the election. It makes it impossible for elections to be cheated. Because, folks, if you have to move a little drawer full of votes, it's easy to lose that little drawer full of votes. But if you have an entire warehouse full of votes, it's kind of hard to lose all those votes. So it makes it harder to cheat. Not that I'm saying they're cheating or that it might not be going on. I'm saying that the weight of your vote, together with everybody else's, is the importance of your vote. Whether you vote one way or whether you vote this way, vote. Please vote. It's 42 days away. We've got about 7-8 minutes left. We've been talking with the mayoral candidate from the city of Ontario, and he has been serving for his entire life in the city, and we're proud to have him on here. In the last few minutes here, Sam, I wanted to give you a moment as a lawyer to give your closing argument of why you think you should be elected for mayor of the city of Ontario. And what you think you want to do, and then I'll follow up with how people can get a hold of you.
Well, I think the reason I'm really running is to try to have the city change. I want, as we've talked about, I want district elections. I want the city to determine whether they want term limits. I really think we need to have ethical reform. We have to have control on campaign contributions. But the main thing is that we have to get the people involved. Ontario now is about 70% Hispanic, and the city doesn't reflect that. There's one Hispanic on the council. There's one semi-Hispanic because she was married to a Hispanic, but she campaigns as a Hispanic. So there's just so many changes that we have to make. And unless somebody runs with these changes in mind, you're going to get the same old thing. If people like me don't run, you're going to have the same incumbents there forever.
Right. And that's where the change happens. It starts right with you. It starts when you go to the polls. It starts when you get all those mailers in the mail, and it's tough, pull them out, take at least a glance at them, look at them, pay attention, tune into a radio show, tell your friends you heard this broadcast today, and then tell them that they can go on to KCAAradio.com, and it's like radio on demand. It's like a radio DVR where radio. You can just look it up, and you can find this broadcast, or on our YouTube channel at KCAATV. Go to youtube.com, put in KCAATV, and you're going to see this broadcast today. You're going to see Sam and I here speaking. You might be going down the road right now. You haven't been able to listen to the whole thing. You had to stop, go in and out of the store, whatever. You can hear it, the whole version, at 3 o'clock in the morning in your bunny slippers. And I hope it's interesting stuff. And I'm glad that Sam has been here. I'm going to once again remind our listeners who may have just been tuning in. We've been talking with Sam Crow. He's running November 6th for mayor of the city of Ontario. He believes in action, integrity, accountability. He's endorsed by Pete Aguilar, Congresswoman Grace Napolitano, Senator Congressman Connie Leyva, Judy Chu, and also Freddie Rodriguez and Congressman Pete Aguilar, just to name a few. If you take a look around Ontario, chances are you're going to see the results of Sam's life work.
Thank you.
And, he's improved the quality of life in Ontario through, recreation centers or through, saving the airport or vital education programs. He's been on the Ontario Montclair Joint Unified School District. Did I say that right? That name of that board,
it's
right?
not unified, but it's a school district.
School district, okay. And supports first responders. City council member for 8 years. Planning commission. Have I left anything out there? I don't know.
No, I don't think so.
But he's also been, involved with things in Ontario like the Symphony Orchestra. Wrote as a mayor and a professional the Ontario Mills Agreement, the original Ontario Airport Agreement. Saved the Ontario Montclair School District $7 million over 20 years with district-wide solar panel programs.
Solar panel, that's our future.
Yeah.
The city of Ontario hasn't really done a job with those, but it's not just Ontario. Sooner or later, we're going to do away with fossil fuels.
Right. And, there are some people that fight it because they want the short-term profit, but they're not looking about our environment. They're not thinking about our environment. They're not thinking about the cost. Yeah, I know that. I can see him in the background over here. But and then I'll hear the music come up after me, and I'll be holding onto the microphone here. No, I'm not ready to go yet. No, I'm just kidding you. But we are coming to the end of our program, so I do want to tell you that if you want to get a hold of Sam, talk to him about some issues, some questions.
Sure, they can reach me at my office. I'm at 1131 West 6th Street in Ontario. The phone number is 909-391-9393. And we answer the phone, and I work every day. So
you're developing a website, but you haven't done that yet. But
I think it's being redone as we speak.
Okay, yeah. Or you can just Google KCAA, call us up here. I'll give you the contact information if you want it. But once again, that number is 909-391-9393. That's 909-391-9393, or stop by his office at 1131 6th Street
6th and Mountain.
6th and Mountain in Ontario, right over there by the Edward Cinever, across the street from the Carl's Jr. Big, tall law office, and his right on the ground floor. It's your ground floor opportunity to go see Sam.
Right.
And you have an open door policy. Thank you, Sam. Thanks for being on the mark with us and sitting in the seat and letting us talk about you. Next week, we're going to have Denny Antoinette Manzinga back again, and possibly Pete Aguilar, if we can nail the congressman down here. And we're going to be speaking with them. We're talking about the elections as they're coming up. We're 42 days away. I'm Mark Westwood for On the Mark on KCAA 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, and 102.3 FM. We'll see you next week, right? The same channel, the same time.
Thank you for listening to On the Mark Live, hosted by Mark Westwood, a weekly show about this station, hot topics, local motion, and the world around us. Join us next week as we hop back on the KCAA Express for another ride on the Mark.
KCAA Loma Linda, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, and now 102.3.